Hi, and welcome to another edition of Leading and Growing Your Real Estate Business. This is Coach James Short here, aka Shorty, and welcome to another edition. So excited to be here once again and sharing some insights and some tips and some gold nuggets along the way. And remember, if you haven't subscribed already, click that little button so you get the latest notifications. I'd love to get a review. If you like what you're hearing, please send us a review. It could be either on iTunes, it could be on YouTube, it could be wherever this lands. So love a little review and some feedback as well. What I also love is I love getting guests outside the industry on, because so often we get so stuck within, the same viewpoints of those within the industry. And it's always fresh and exciting to get someone outside the industry, but also helping in relations to sales. And so this leads me to our next wonderful guest, Katherine Minett. She's a sales success business coach and trainer with 30 years of frontline sales experience, winner of 3 Representative of the Year awards, and a consistent track record of exceeding budget in several multinational corporations. An experienced corporate trainer and coach, Katherine transitioned from corporate to business owner. And we're going to unpack that a little bit shortly, and establish Minett Sales Academy. And she's the creator of the Sales Confidence Formula, a unique online sales training and coaching program. And she coaches and trains female business owners 40 to 60 years old who sell face-to-face and must make consistent sales. Her clients learn how to handle their sales fears, find their ideal customers, and double their sales without feeling salesy. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is to jump on over to minettsalesacademy.com/sales masterclass, because she's got an awesome gift that she wants to share with you. So it's MINETT salesacademy.com/sales mastercard. And you'll get a complimentary 60-minute training session on selling. So let's get her on. I'm so pumped to find out a little bit more. Katherine, thank you for joining us today, and welcome.
Thank you very much. Do I call you James or Shorty?
Oh, whatever you want. That's totally fine.
Okay. I'll stick with James, the more formal one. I've always been Katherine with a K. And people do like to try and shorten it to Kath or Kathy, but I always correct them and bring them back. I was named Katherine. But you know what Australians are like? They like to shorten everything. So it's a constant battle.
It is. And that's the thing, right? It's like, how do we abbreviate and put either an IE or a Y on the end of it? So it's very, very interesting. So share with it, like, how did you get into the world of selling? Like, obviously working in corporate, and how did you get into that? And what have been the different milestones along the way to allow you to set up your own business? It's so exciting.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, well, I've been doing sales all my life. Even when I was, say, knee high to a grasshopper, I was selling. I was selling apples and oranges door to door out of a doll's pram. My sister and my dad went to the markets, bought apples and oranges. They weighed them, bagged them up, and me and my twin sister would push this doll's pram full of apples and oranges door to door down the street, knocking on the door. Do you want to buy? It was very basic selling, no training. Do you want to buy apples and oranges? And I think the only reason we were successful is because we were, cute little 6-year-olds, twin girls with red curly hair. And so how could they resist? Of course they bought from us. So that was probably my first endeavor into selling. When I was a teenager, I went door knocking, selling car washing services, and
Wow.
a few gigs doing car washing. So until I got sick of car washing, and then I got into the babysitting business. So I've always been a bit entrepreneurial. But I'm born and grew up in Liverpool. So people might be thinking, where's her accent from? It sounds unusual. It's because I do have a little bit of a Liverpool accent, because that's where I grew up till I was 18. But then I moved to Leicester in the Midlands, and I went to university there to do business and marketing in my degree. I stayed there for about 6 years. I didn't pick up any accent there. But then, of course, I emigrated to Australia, and I've been in Australia now for over 30 years. So I am definitely Australian. And I suppose the whole sales thing came about because when I graduated with my business degree, thinking I'll do marketing, that was my speciality, but I wanted a company car. So I knew that if I got seriously, that was what I wanted more than anything. I wanted a car. I didn't know how to drive, by the way. That was the first thing I did when I graduated was go and get my L's and start learning to drive. And then I got a job in sales because a friend of mine was in sales, and so I'd spent the day on the road with him. He was in pharmaceutical sales, so I sort of shadowed him, and I thought, well, this is good, and we had a company car, and he said, oh, you'd be good at this. So I went and got a job in sales. So that's how I got into sales with the intention of moving through into marketing. But of course, that never happened. I never ended up moving into a pure marketing corporate role. I ended up staying in sales all my life. And I mean, I had a few failures along the way. That first job, I was really bad at it because they didn't provide the training. So I quit before I got fired. But
You
when
can
I
get the car?
I got the car.
Oh, you got the car?
I had it for about 6 months, and then I went, here's the car keys back, I'm leaving. And I emigrated to Australia because I hated, the other thing about working as a sales rep in the UK is it snows and you're in the back of the boot. It's like you're on, all your listeners, real estate listeners would know, you're in the back of the boot pulling out the your product and your brochures and everything, and the snow's going down the back of your neck.
Oh.
And then we're wearing court shoes and stockings, and it's freezing cold, and you stand in a puddle, and it's not pleasant. And I did honestly say to myself, if this is what selling is, then I'm not interested. Anyway, so then I emigrated, get a job in Australia in sales, because that's all that was on my resume. So I thought I'd give it another go. At least the weather it's Queensland, it's sunny.
Yep.
And so I started a career in Brisbane. And again, I didn't get the training because the sales training, because it was a small business. So I decided to train myself. So I got books, I got cassettes. I listened to cassettes in the car. I went to seminars when they came to Brisbane. I learned about selling, and then I got a job in the pharmaceutical industry. And then I got more and more. Obviously the training in the bigger corporates is full on coaching, full on training. So that's where and then I was every day out in the field implementing what I was learning. But I also did a lot of personal development work as well. Like I went to personal development seminars to get my head set right. And that is critical, I think, for sales. And I can talk more about that later. But
yeah, definitely.
and the transition from then being in 30 years in sales, I never went into marketing. I did sales management, did training and some coaching, but I didn't do marketing, pure marketing. But that transition, I've always wanted to have my own business ever since I was a kid. I always wanted to have my own business. Used to think I wanted a chain of stores, shops. I thought I'd open a shop, but I got made redundant. And because had this desire, I'd been learning online marketing. When I got interested in that in the must have been about 2000s, early 2000s. I started learning about online marketing and dabbling. But I could never quit my job to do a business full time because I had that, the golden cuffs, the money. I was earning good money and I was the breadwinner. So I couldn't just jack it all in and go and start my hobby business. So it never really was able to do that until just over 2 years ago, I got made redundant. But by then I got a good payout. My mortgage was way down. My no more outgoing school fees, no more solar panel fees, no more braces, no more car payments. So I was in a position where I could go, you know what, if I'm going to do this business, I have to do it now or I never will. And the lucky thing was, it was like the universe was working for me. I had already started writing a book, and for 18 months before I got made redundant, I'd written a book about sales. Because I thought, what am I going to write about? I'll write about sales, and I wanted to be an author. So I wrote this book and it was completely finished. It just needed like an official editing and go through that launching stage when I got made redundant. So that book, all that content has now become the content of my online training program. And then I provide coaching to support it. So as I wrote that book while I was still working and had an income coming in. So that's how I ended up being here today.
That's so good. And there's so many different key takeaways from that about, I want to take you back to that time though, when you're in the car, listening to the tapes and reading the books. Has there been a one in particular or a couple in particular that stood out when you were self-learning that you still use today or had one of the biggest impacts for you in your career?
Yeah, I think in terms of books, I've still got one of the first books. I have it here. This is L1. This was the original book. Can you see that okay? Tom Hopkins, How to Master the Art of Selling. Look, it's
Yes.
brown and dog. That was a brand new book. That is a very old book. So that was the first one. The cassette, I listened to Earl Nightingale, the Earl
Mhm.
Nightingale, very motivating. That was all very mindset. Read Dale Carnegie stuff as well. How to Win Friends and Influence People, all that sort of stuff. And Jim Rohn was around a lot in those days. But we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have, the internet. So it was all like books, and you'd have to send away to get the cassettes, and you get like a box
Yes.
with
The
all that.
pack.
I haven't got any of them now. I threw all them away because I don't have a cassette recorder. Who has a cassette recorder anymore? But I remember just listening to them over and over and over. And there were seminars. Sometimes there'd be like a Brisbane seminar, and I'd get a ticket and go to one of those events. And that motivated me. And I'm glad I did that in the early days, because also there was a lot of the mindset stuff then. It was really helped me understand that I needed to do my own personal development as well. It's not just about learning the skills and techniques of selling, but you need to have that mindset right, because you're selling, you have to have a lot of confidence, and you're going to have to put up with a lot of no's and rejections, and things aren't going to go the way you expect them to and you want them to, but you've got to be able to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going. And if you can't do that, you're going to struggle. And that's where all the personal development and strength of your inner self is really important. And if you don't get that right, you're not going to implement the sales strategies, and you're certainly not going to, if you don't implement the sales strategies and prospecting, goal setting, then you're not going to get in front of enough people to make a sale. And when you are in front of people, then you need the sales conversation skills, because if you can't do that, you're not going to make a sale. You're going to feel awkward, icky, pushy. So there's a lot involved with selling. And I don't.
And is that, I just want to jump in there. Is that like what you take, particularly your female clients through? Is that what you're finding is the biggest, well, the biggest challenge in the first step is working on their mindset? And what are their fears, or what are their obstacles, or what are their challenge when they come to you around their mindset? Is it confidence, or is it any other things? Like what specifically is it, and how do you get them to shift that?
Okay, so to start with, yes, the mindset, I think, is critical. A lot of sales training programs will go straight into, here's the techniques for how to sell, questioning, listening, and all that. I know, because I was also, when I lived in Sydney, I was a communication skills trainer for a large company, international company. And that's what we taught. It was all the techniques. We didn't teach the mindset. So yes, I believe that with anything that you do, whether it's selling or business or marketing, or I don't know, learning any skill, if you don't have that mindset right, you're not going to keep going, and you're not going to be able to pick yourself up and dust yourself off when the challenges hit. And so a lot of the mindset stuff for business owners or salespeople. I mean, business owners are salespeople. I mean, 80% of the time should be spent marketing and selling their products. So we're all salespeople. But I think the biggest challenge is overcoming that fear, the fears that come up, and we all get them. The fear rises up, and it will be different for different people, different intensity, depending on their personal development and whether they've got the skills to control it. Manage it, really. You can't control. I think you can manage fears that come up. You can't obliterate them, but you can manage them and allow your confidence to come through. And that requires skills of reframing. And the first thing I always teach people, and I talk a lot about, is reframing what selling is.
Talk to me about that.
And that's because if you come into a sales role, you've got to understand what selling is. Selling is not about manipulating people, and it's not about conning them or pushing them into doing something they don't want to do. It's not about you. It's not about you at all. It's about them. It's about building a relationship with people, and that has to be ongoing. It's about educating them so that because especially in today's market, the buyer is a very savvy person. They've got the internet, they've got all the information. They don't need more information. But what they do need is education from you in terms of being able to educate the buyer on what they need to know to do to be able to move forward. And if your product is the solution, then obviously be able to educate about your product in a non-salesy, pushy way. And then sales is also about service, being of service, not just during the sales process, but even afterwards when you've got them as a customer, you have to continue that service and looking after them. And then also, I think of it as being a problem solver. People have problems, and your product or service is going to solve that problem. And so we are all those things. We are educators, relationship builders. We're being of service, and we are solving problems. And if you can shift your mindset from that sleazy, pushy, manipulative, it's all about you and not the customer, and shift it to think of yourself, I'm a problem solver, I'm a relationship builder, I'm a good communicator. You have to be all those things to be successful at selling. So that's the first step. Then, of course, you've got to overcome those fears, limiting beliefs that come up that we all have. So it might be, I'm not good enough, or they won't like me. What are they thinking about me? There's all these negative thoughts that come up with people, and it's about being able to manage those thoughts and reframe them in the moment. Sometimes, you could be right in front of someone, a client, or you might be on stage doing a presentation or whatever it is you're doing, and that fear can hit. You need those skills and strategies to be able to manage them, or you won't be able to move forward. They'll just stop you in your tracks.
Love it. Love it. I want to find out though, you've been in the industry, as you said, for 30 years. You would have seen some amazing changes within the sales industry, and the Tom Hopkins of the world. Some of the techniques in there and some of the language patterns are ageless, so to speak. But you would have seen a change in trends. Where do you see the world of selling? I guess you've said some key things around building relationships and understanding your product, but where do you see it going? Do you see it shifting? Do you see it changing? Where do you see the industry of sales going, do you feel?
Yeah, well, it certainly has changed. I think when selling in the old days, back in the
back in the old days.
Back when I was young, back in the 80s, back in the 50s and the 60s, that it was very male dominated, obviously, and you had the Tom Hopkins and these very manipulative strategies. I read one, it was like the Ben Franklin strategy, and then, there was a whole you can choose one of these techniques for manipulating people. Basically, that's what it was. And so luckily, most people I think who are successful in sales will have moved away from those sort of manipulative techniques. And when I was going through all my training through my 30 years in corporate, we had many different training instructors come in. There were in-house trainers. They used to bring people in as well, different organizations. There was relationship selling. There was like strategic selling. They had, it's a lot of it's the same stuff. It's just repackaged and the focus is slightly different. But I think because the buyer is more educated now because of the internet and the access to the tools that we have. The market's changed in that the old techniques don't necessarily work. I think building relationship is more important now as well today. People are not necessarily ready to buy when you're ready to sell to them. So they might be in front of you. It's great if you get someone in front of you, but only 3% of people are actually ready to buy at that point in time. The majority are still shopping around. They're still checking you out. They're researching, and they may not be ready to make a decision. But you can't just neglect those people because they are your future clients. And in real estate, that would be, I get them knocking on the door. Hi, I'm here. Do you want to list your property? No, I don't even know who they are. And they want to, me to list my property. So, but I'm not ready to buy. I may not be ready to buy for another 10 years. But there will be a point, and I think I don't know if it's still the 7-year cycle in real estate, but people do move. There will be a point that people move. So you need to be nurturing those relationships with people in a non-pushy way so that and keep adding value and keep serving them and be around and be available to them without being pushy, so that when they are ready to buy, you're the first person that they think about. And so I think that's important now, that change. The other thing is with sales, there's a lot of online. Even sales calls happen over Zoom now. And that is such a new phenomenon. We did have Skype. I know I used Skype earlier. But after COVID, that was it. Everyone's now, we're all on Zoom or Skype or meetings or Teams or whatever. But people know now that it's okay to have a conversation on Zoom. There's nothing like having a cup of coffee and being in someone's office and their home and having a meeting there. But it means the good thing is that we now expand our marketplace because we can reach more people. But then there comes the consequence of that is, how do you communicate through the camera? There is a difference. And people who are really good selling face to face, all of a sudden, because of lockdown or whatever, or distance, they're having to have conversations over the computer, and they find it really difficult to look into the computer monitor without feeling awkward. So how do you transfer from that 3D to that 2D? So I think that's sort of a new way of selling. And again, that's you crossing new barriers of and challenges of doing something new. And whenever you do something new, it's going to feel awkward. And the only way to get good at anything is to have the courage to step forward and take action and just do it anyway. Just get started. That's my motto. It's just a bit of a spin on Nikes, just do it. I say, just get started. Just get started. Have a go. Because the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, like anything. So I think learning those skills, building long-term relationships, nurture them, get comfortable with technology, get comfortable getting out, marketing yourself on Facebook. Facebook, use the technology that's there, because if you don't, other people will. AI is coming in now. That was unheard of even, I think, 12 months ago. I mean, by most, but the majority now. I mean, every second sponsor. It's probably I'm dabbling in AI, so of course I'm getting all the sponsored posts. So for me, it's everywhere. Maybe it's not for other people, but I'm telling you, AI is here, and it's not going away anytime soon. And if you don't get on AI into your business in some way, maybe for automations and things, then you're going to be behind the 8 ball. And that's going to be very relevant for real estate agents as well.
Yeah, very much so. So what we like to do is to find out a little bit more about our guests and to find out what makes them tick. And some of the questions is around, you mentioned before about your continual learning and development for yourself, but how do you, what do you do to work on your own mindset at the moment?
Well, I attend lots of courses. I've got 2 coaches. So I have a business coach who does coach for coaches. So I've got training involved with that and fortnightly meetings. I also have a marketing coach. So I implement a marketing strategy. I'm not one for creating the wheel. I like to use other people's successful models and implement them. So I have a coach that I'm working with to implement. I've nearly finished the sales funnel that I use for my business. And so I do a lot of the learning that is provided. So weekly coaching calls. I've got fortnightly ones, once a month, and a once a week one. So there's always that connection. I also have an accountability group. And that's just 4 of us in a group that we just say, what are we doing this week, and holding ourselves accountable. We're all part of the same coaching group, but we're looking a way to provide that extra accountability, which I think is really important for keeping yourself moving forward and hitting your goals, whatever you're doing. And also, what else do I do? Training. I love doing some of these event training, and in fact, one of my strategies is joint ventures, right? So joint venturing is a strategy that I'm working on now. So getting affiliate partners for my sales masterclass. So I'm attending a 3-day event this weekend. So it's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, 1 a.m. till 9 a.m. in the morning. Wow. So because it's American, so I've signed up to attend. It's a joint venture event, which is going to help me learn about being able to set up joint ventures effectively. And I get the opportunity to be joint venturing with people that are also attending the event. So I see it as a really good, valuable use of my time, even if it means getting up at 1 a.m. in the morning. I will do that because I can see the value, and it links into what the strategy is that I'm working on at the moment. And then another strategy is Facebook ads. I've been doing organic, and now I'm switching to paid ads. So obviously I need to learn about that. So I've done training, online training, a boot camp to learn about Facebook ads. And I'm stepping into those fears. I'm courageously taking action, implementing a bit of money here, tweaking, learning, adapting. And so, we never stop facing those fears. But when we do face those fears, then that's how we become confident, by taking the action.
Yeah, fantastic. So you obviously got a busy schedule, right? And so how do you manage your time? Is there a process that you follow? How do you fit it all in?
Yeah, I have my ideal week set out where I have certain days for certain things. So For example, when I'm coaching with my clients, they're the same time every week. My sales masterclass, same time every week. Mondays and Tuesdays are for my appointments. I do one-on-one appointments, but I will also slot in podcast interviews if I've got space. From not one, because I usually do the sales masterclass on the Thursday, so then people book in Monday and Tuesday to have one-on-one calls with me, so I free up those days. I do networking as well on the Tuesdays, so Tuesday morning and Wednesday mornings are like networking mornings where I go online and I have some face-to-face networking meetings I go to, and then I have my group coaching calls with my coaches. So I have a fortnightly one on a Thursday morning, and a Tuesday morning after the networking, I go straight into another course. So I've got certain times blocked out in my calendar all the time, which are consistent things I regularly do. And then I have allocated white space on my calendar for people to slot in appointments for one-on-one calls and for podcasting. So, and then Friday afternoons, I try and keep free. I've got it blocked out. So no one books an appointment with me on a Friday afternoon. They can't.
Blocked out.
For me, it's like, that's my catch up. That's my, if I, maybe I'm going to knock off early, especially if I'm going to be doing something on a Saturday. So Friday afternoons, I try and keep that free. And of course, I've got to slot in early in the morning is my gym time, my time before I get started.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, I think having structure in a calendar in an ideal week. And my tip would be, especially in sales, if you're making appointments with people and you need follow-up, you schedule it in the calendar. And then when you finish that meeting, if it requires another meeting, you schedule that in the calendar straight away. You don't say, I'll call you, I'll send you an email. Yeah, let's touch base next month. And then don't do anything about it. It has to be scheduled. You do it there and then you can forget about it because it's already in the calendar.
Yeah, great tip. Fantastic. So what we'd like to do is a 60-second quick quiz. Are you ready to answer some of these questions?
Okay.
Here we go. Yeah. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie would be, I like fast action movies. So it would be the Bourne Identity with Matt Damon.
Love it. What's your favorite food?
Thai food.
What's your favorite holiday destination?
Europe. Just got back from 5 weeks in Europe, and Spain was fantastic. Go back there.
Love it. Yep. You mentioned a little bit already, but what's your morning routine?
Morning routine. Well, first thing is I'm English, so you get up and you have a cup of tea. That's the first thing. And while I'm having my cup of tea, I'm lucky enough to be able to live in Queensland. I sit outside to drink my tea, so I get a bit of sunshine. I can't go in the sun, full sun during the day because of my red hair and fair skin, but I get my morning sunshine early. And that's usually a time when I do any journaling. I'm not a regular journaler, but sometimes I just feel I want to journal about things. Once I've had my cup of tea, I might go to the gym. I might get on my spin bike and then jump in the pool if it's really hot in the summer, waiting for the pool to heat up. But I have a bit of exercise time, yoga, something like that. And then get dressed, get showered and get on to work.
Love it. What about an evening routine?
Oh, that's pretty simple. Dinner, shower, dinner, clean up, watch a movie with my husband. And then that's husband time, is that evening time. And once we finish, the only thing I do in the evening is I do my gratitude. That's when I think back of the day and think about what I've done, what I've achieved. I write down sometimes all the things I've achieved in the day in a notepad, so I know I'm moving forward. I've done this, I've done all the little things. Even though I was like, made the bed this morning, I write down all the things I've achieved, and I use that's the time as well to be grateful for what's happened in the day, the people I've met, things I have in my life, people in my life, and then I always go to bed listening to a sleep story because then I can sleep.
Beautiful. Do you have a most embarrassing moment?
Most embarrassing moment. I can't think of an embarrassing moment. I'm sure there's been many. I think I try and block them out of my mind. I have done some shocking presentations in my early days. The first presentation I ever did in front of a big crowd was at a radiology conference. But I was in my 20s, I was like mid-20s, I was in Australia, and been out, got drunk the night before. We really had a great meal, great drinks. And then the next morning, the marketing guy was meant to be presenting, said he had to go back to Sydney for a meeting, and I had to do the presentation. And I was still recovering from Still drunk. So I was like terrified because I hadn't had any presentation skills training at that stage. And I had to stand up, present a slide deck that I didn't even know, it wasn't I hadn't created it. I literally had to just read off it, deliver the presentation verbatim off the slides, while I was holding on to the lectern, wobbling because I was feeling quite nauseous. And my colleagues who did not get chosen to do that presentation were laughing their heads off while they were nursing their own little hangovers. But I was about 26 or something, like 27, and I was not prepared. And that was totally humiliating. I absolutely hate
it. Love it. So if you were to choose 5 inspirational people to have dinner with, who would they be? And they could be dead or alive.
Okay, well, Oprah. Who doesn't want to have dinner with Oprah? Tony Robbins. He's been a mentor of mine. I've not done it. I've done his course, done some of his programs. Tony Robbins. Good, because he does them online now, which is great. Russell Brunson. I'd like to meet Russell Brunson. I've learned a lot about online marketing through his funnels. I use ClickFunnels, and so I'd like to have a meeting with him. I think he's very full of energy and have loads of ideas. Mel Robbins. I follow Mel Robbins. She's great, very inspirational, and I can really relate to her. So I'd like to, Mel Robbins would be one. And there's another guy I'd like to meet who's inspirational. I've never seen him speak live. He's Australian. I think he's based in Melbourne. But it's Nick, I don't know how to pronounce his surname, like it's Vujicic or something. Vujicic. And he's got no arms and no legs. And he's like a successful businessman. He is an entrepreneur. He will do anything. He swims. He can do anything, and he's got no limbs. So he is a big inspiration. I know he does a lot of work with schools and motivating children and teenagers that they can do anything they want, despite.
Fantastic. So, and if you were Prime Minister for the day, what's one thing that you would change?
Daylight saving in Queensland. That would. Well, you'd agree, wouldn't you? I mean, you're on the border. How hard is it when you live, and we're not far from New South Wales, that halfway through the year we're on a different time zone, and the confusion that causes. I used to rep down the Gold Coast and into Northern Rivers, and you'd make your appointment for the doctor. To say a doctor, I was a GP rep and a specialist rep. You'd make your appointment in the calendar, and then by the time it came to do the appointment, the time had changed, and you'd rock up either early or late. But at least they were very understanding, because it happens so often. But yeah, give Queensland daylight saving, I say.
Love it. Best piece of
Prime Minister.
best piece of advice. What would you have?
Best piece of advice, I think, is no one's going to come and rescue you. I think you've got to take responsibility for your own life. You can get help, you can get coaching, you can get mentoring, have advisors, but at the end of the day, you are responsible for your life and for your decisions and for the consequences, good or bad, of those decisions. So make your choices be very conscious of the decisions that you make, and know that you are ultimately responsible for whatever happens to you in your life and in your business and everything. Take responsibility.
Great piece of advice. And so how can the audience follow your journey, reach out to you, get in contact with you?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, I have my sales masterclass. So that's at minettesalesacademy.com/sales masterclass. So there's one coming up on Thursday. So you can register. It's live. It's 60 minutes on Zoom. You get to ask questions at the end. So that's with no sales pitch. I know people think, oh, she's a salesperson, she's going to be pitching. No, pure sales training. And I also, if you want to reach out and just book a strategy coaching call with me, then you can book a call. I'll give you the link for booking a call with me. And you can connect with me if it's early stages and you're still building. Who is this, Katherine Minett? Connect with me on LinkedIn, Katherine Minett, sales coach and trainer, or Minett Sales Academy. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. So yeah, lots of places.
Fantastic. Katherine, really appreciate it. Really appreciate your words of wisdom, your expertise and your knowledge and your energy. Thank you once again for being a guest, and really appreciate it.
I really appreciate being on your show, Shank. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope your listeners gain a lot of value from it. So yeah, thank you. Thanks, James.
Wonderful.